All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. Yep, we're coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network and X Zone Broadcast Network. My email address, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, on MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. Worldwide toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. And our website, sounds like a commercial, www.xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour is Tanja Diamond, the Tantra Teacher. Now, she has more alphabets after her name than 6 cans of Campbell's vegetable alphabet soup, so I'm not going to even start. She is a life mastery expert who's been working in the U.S. and abroad in the field of transformation of human sexuality for the past 25 years. Now, why is it taking you 25 years to transform your sex? We'll ask her that in a few minutes. Having lived and studied all over the world, Tanja has been fortunate enough to have many spiritual teachers in both conventional theories and esoteric philosophies. Many formal credentials in applied science and psychology, certifications in energetic disciplines, and several uncanny, intuitive gifts make Tanja a dynamic force. All right, can't go any further. What kind of uncanny, intuitive gifts are we talking about here? Hey, Tanja, welcome to the X Zone.
Hi there. I'm happy to be here. Uncanny, yes. Well, people have always told me I have the uncanny ability to read them, you know, to be able to look at them and see where they're not coming through and through with how they feel.
I see. I thought it was tied to your transformation of human sexuality.
Well, there's that too.
Oh.
The uncanny ability to tell if somebody's living their authenticity.
Oh.
No, sexual human transformation. No, I'm not sexually transforming anybody.
Hey, in this day and age, you never know. I thought maybe you worked on the Home and Garden TV network for a while. I don't know. Tell me, what is Tantra?
Well, Tantra is an ancient Indian philosophy and technology for enlightenment. But it was created for the homeowners and not for the monks that sat in caves, but to actually use our daily mundane tasks as a meditation to spiritual enlightenment. So like flower arranging, dancing, and of course Tantra is really well known for its lovemaking techniques.
You mean it's more than just all about sex?
Yeah, it is more than all about sex.
Well, this interview is over then. Just kidding.
Even though the parts that are about sex are phenomenal, the tantric philosophy itself, or the technology itself, only 3% of sex is written about. But it's the thing that the West is most focused on. And so we know about Sting and his 9-hour orgasms and that type of thing. So people are like, oh, Tantra must be sex. But no, I actually teach Tantra for business, too.
I was out somewhere, and they had TVs on displays, and one of these commercials came on for one of these male enhancement products. And there was a gentleman standing beside his wife, and they were watching this commercial, and it says, if you suffer from erectile erection for more than 4 hours, call your doctor or go to your local emergency department. And little old lady looked at him and said, yeah, that would be over my dead body.
That he had an erection that long, or that he went to the doctor to get it fixed?
That he went to the doctor to get it fixed. I thought that was so precious. So then I took my mom and dad home, yeah. You and I have got to take a 2-minute commercial break. Please stand by. This is going to be a great hour. It's Friday here on the X-Zone, Friday, February the 26th. My name is Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network and the X-Zone Broadcast Network. Toll-free worldwide, 1-800 number 610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com and on MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. Tanja Diamond is my special guest. This is one website you're going to want to visit, www.learningtantra.com, LearningTantra.com. We'll be back on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break as we continue live and around the world from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network and the X-Zone Broadcast Network. Don't go away. Tanja Diamond's my special guest, X-Zone lady, X-Zone Nation, www.learningtantra.com. And that, are you wearing a headphone by any chance?
No, I'm not.
Oh, because we're getting a bit of a feedback here, but...
Somebody said that earlier, and I'm not near anything that...
I guess it's just your energy that's doing it. Yeah.
That's it.
There you go. www.learningtantra.com, and thank you, Ringo Starr, for that. It don't come easy. What's the difference between classical Tantra, Neo-Tantra, and modern Tantra?
Well, classical Tantra is the old art form that the master handed down to students that was not much written about years and years and years. We're talking definitely centuries ago. And very few people practice classical Tantra anymore. It's a very rigorous scientific approach to this path of enlightenment. Neo-Tantra is something that we're hearing a lot more about, and that's what most people think of when they think of Tantra these days. And that's where people have taken the Tantric and Kama Sutra and Taoist sexual techniques and have brought them into a more Western-friendly approach. And then modern Tantra is actually something that I've created. I am a classical student of Tantra and created modern Tantra by taking a lot of the philosophies and technologies of classical Tantra and making them available for today's society. You know, we're driving around at Mach 1 with our cell phones in our ears. People just don't have time to be just sitting around chanting mantras for, 195 days, 65 times a day. It's just not going to happen. So how can we take the best that Tantra has and apply it for today and create it for today so people can have those benefits?
How can Tantra help us with our daily life? Because we, like you said, we are running around at Mach 1, and it seems we don't even have time to stop and smell the roses anymore.
Right, and most people are attempting spiritual practices by maybe sitting Zen for an hour or doing a yoga class 3 days a week. Mm-hmm. And while they may be conscious and practicing spirituality in that hour, they spend the rest of their 23 hours unconscious. I find it better that if we use some micro practices, we take moments out of our lives many times a day to take some conscious breaths, to take a moment and look at the sky and actually feel into our bodies about what's going on. And if we do these micro practices all throughout the day, eventually they evolve into a solid practice.
Tell me, do you prescribe people to also do daily meditations?
Well, yeah, but everything can be a meditation, because in Tantra we teach that when you are washing dishes, it's a meditation. When you are dancing, you're playing with your kids, when you're writing an email, when you're making love, all of these are meditations if you bring your entire focus into what you're doing. They're active meditations.
All right, explain this to me, Lucy. How do we get doing dishes to be meditation?
Well, meditation is simply bringing your mind and your entire focus into the act that you're doing. And so if you are washing your dishes and you are not thinking about anything else, you're thinking about the water, how it feels on your hands, the soap, the suds, what does it look like, what's the smell experience. If you bring all of your senses into that experience, then it's a meditative experience.
So if somebody is daydreaming, are they in essence meditating?
Well, if they're daydreaming, generally they're checked out of the experience they're having in that moment. So if you're sitting in school and you're supposed to be learning something and you're daydreaming, you're not really meditating. You are experiencing a different brainwave state, but that's not what we want you to do. We want you to bring your entire focus into the task at hand. That would be like making love while you're thinking about baseball.
I bet you there's a lot of guys going out there right there saying, yes, so?
Well, that's a really, 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 really bad thing, because that is being distracted. And as soon as you check out and start thinking about something else while you're making love, your partner knows that you are no longer in the game with them. And that's definitely not where we want to go. And Tantra teaches that we can bring the art of meditation into our lovemaking and create a very different experience than most people are having.
All right, so I guess that old phrase about getting to first base is all wrong then, huh?
It definitely is all wrong, because if you're trying to get to first base but you're thinking about third, you've already messed up the first base part.
Talk about stealing bases again. Here we go. Okay, listen. Do people have to believe in all that woo-woo weird stuff to get any benefit from Tantra?
No, and in fact, I teach a very simplistic formula. You don't need to use the Sanskrit words, and those are the words of the classical Tantra. You don't really need to believe in chakras, which are energy bodies in our bodies. You don't need to chant, meditate. You don't even need to really meditate. I can teach you how to do that without thinking you're doing it. What you do need to do is have a sincere attitude in wanting to change your life and your experience in life. And whether that's in the bedroom or in the boardroom, it all takes the same format. We need to do the same exercises to be extraordinary in either space.
So what are we doing? Are we just bringing our body physically and psychologically into sync with the energy around us?
Well, what we're doing is, we're showing up. And, there's lots of words people use: be present, be in the now, show up, all of these things. The reality is most of us are very checked out of our experience. We don't have a lot of body awareness. We don't have a lot of energy awareness. And we're certainly just kind of meandering around in our existence. So, yes, it's about checking into your body to actually be able to feel what you're authentically feeling, to experience your body and all its senses as they are now, and your emotions and your energy. So we're complete beings. We have it's got to be a holistic approach. If we're just in our heads and all we have is knowledge, we don't have mastery, because knowledge is in the head and mastery is in the being.
So it's basically a real reality check.
Right. Definitely. It's about authenticity, and of course reality is everybody's own illusion because of where they're filtering, whatever they're filtering it through. But this is really about not transcending. A lot of spiritual practices are about, checking out of the body, taking, trips, astral trips, whatever. This is about actually being totally engaged in your physical, mental, emotional, energetic reality.
I'm sure you've been asked this before, but doing Tantra, does it go against a person's religion?
Yeah, I get asked that a lot, and no, it absolutely doesn't, because Tantra itself is not a religion. We need to think of it as a technology. It's a science and a technology for spiritual enlightenment. If you are a Christian, doing Tantra will bring you closer to your God, or it doesn't matter what religion you are, it's going to bring you closer to your God, your universe, your spiritual practice, whatever it is. It's designed to bring you closer to that space.
What's the history of Tantra?
6,000 years, ancient Indian
Wow.
philosophy. Yeah, it's been the problem with Tantra is so much of the ancient knowledge isn't written about, and the stuff that is written about is written in a language that few people translate very well. And so it's shrouded in mystique, and that's why I think most people have just gone for the sexual aspects, because that seems a little more straightforward. But what they don't realize is that the sexual techniques used in Tantra, if you don't have the foundation of the rest of the practice, they're simply just techniques. And there are enough books written about techniques that everybody would be sexual masters at this point if that's all it took.
Now, I'm really too busy to add another practice into my life. How do I fit in Tantra?
Well, that's when we were talking about micro-practices. That's kind of what I was talking about. It does seem we're overwhelmed, isn't it,
exactly.
by all the things that are out there to do. I mean, how do we care for ourselves? How do we care for our families? And if you were going to simply take the rituals of Tantra, meaning we're going to make love for 5 hours, people roll their eyes to me and go, I don't have that kind of time. I can think of worse things to do.
5 hours? That's not very long.
Yeah, days and days and days. But using micro practices of these meditations and of these rituals is really what we need to do so that we can easily incorporate it into any busy life.
This is the X-Zone on the Talkstar Radio Network and the X-Zone Broadcast Network. Our special guest is Tanja Diamond. Her website is www.learningtantra.com. That's www.learningtantra.com. Tanja, in your book, Beyond Sex Tantra, you have a chapter called Tantra of Business. Now, what's that all about?
Well, that is certainly something that is making people stand up and take notice, especially since most people think of Tantra as sex. Yes, Tantra for business, basically using the philosophies and technologies of Tantra to form better business relationships, to learn how to move your breath and your energy and your consciousness into the direction that you need to go. It's a holistic approach to most people. When they can't move forward in business, it's not because their marketing or something is wrong. It's because their personal alignment's out of whack. If their integrity isn't 100%, if their vision isn't 100%, with everything in life, we need the full approach. You can't have a great sex life or a great business life if the rest of your life is in chaos. We need to bring it through and through our entire beings in all fronts. So teaching Tantra for Business is about learning about yourself and how you sabotage yourself or not, and then how to use everything at your disposal to move you forward into the business realm. And we're very successful in doing that.
What would be one indication that a person is deliberately sabotaging themselves?
Well, if they keep running into the same issue over and over again, and they talk about how people are always out to get them, they can never move forward. I have a client who has been trying to get out a very special technology for the past 12 years. His technology hasn't changed yet. Once working with me, and we changed how he viewed the world and how he was interacting with the world and where his negativity was coming through, all of a sudden in 4 months, doors opened. The same doors that were closed opened up all over for him, and his business is now booming and taking off worldwide.
Tanja, stand by. You and I have to take a commercial break. With the news at the bottom of the hour, X-Zone Nation, Tanja Diamond is our special guest. Her website is www.learningtantra.com. That's www.learningtantra.com. And we'll be back on the other side of this news break as the X-Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network and the X-Zone Broadcast Network.
Hi, this is Eric Rawls of Cosmoverse.com, and you're listening to Rob McConnell in the X-Zone. Hi, this is Blade Runner, and you are listening to Canada's #1 paranormal radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Hi, I'm Laura Sabrin of Feast to Fields Organic Vineyard in Jordan, and you're listening to Canada's #1 paranormal radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Hi, my name is Lady Ashley, the White Witch of Niagara-on-the-Lake, and you're listening to Canada's #1 paranormal talk radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Gonna find my baby, gonna hold her tight, gonna grab some afternoon delight. My motto's always been, when it's right, why wait until the middle of a cold, dark night, when everything's a little clearer in the light of day, and we know the night is always gonna be here anyway.
Thinking of you's working up my appetite. Looking forward to a little afternoon delight. Rubbing sticks and stones together make the sparks ignite. And the thought of loving you is getting so excited.
Sky rockets in flight, afternoon delight. Afternoon delight.
Tanja Diamond is my special guest this hour, www.learningtantra.com. What drove you to writing your book about Tantra and doing the extensive research that you have?
Well, I have been involved in Tantra for a very, very long time, and what's driven me to bring the word Tantra back out into mainstream and so that it's not just in the sexual realm, because Beyond Sex Tantra really is about it's a guide to extraordinary living. So it doesn't just focus on the sexual aspects of Tantra. And I think that's what the world needs to understand, that we have a great technology. We have an easy practice to live better lives through Tantra. And so the world needs to know about it. I'm reclaiming it back from everybody that's just saying it's all about sex, and saying, hey, look, there's a whole lot more here, and even with the whole business practices. And I think that the world needs to be able to feel again. We've stopped feeling. We're in our heads. We live all of our time in this doing space, and we're missing so much of our life capacity.
You shared with us an example of one of your clients where you were using Tantra in the business aspect, and how his business changed just within 4 months of starting the practice. What did he do to change?
Well, most of us carry around a lot of energy in one direction or another, and he had spent so long attempting to get people to listen to his technology. He has a water filtration system that's actually going to help heal the planet's water. Most economical thing, and you would think that that would be something everybody would be listening to. It's the United Nations' #1 problem is dirty water, and yet he couldn't get anybody to listen to him because he was so bitter. The energy he carried with him was one of annoyance and anger and frustration, because he'd been trying so long to get people to listen to him. And as soon as we started working, I listened to him and started talking to him about his life. I realized this was a huge hindrance, because most of the time when you walk into a space, people are going to feel what you're carrying with you. And business relationships are made, they're intimate relationships, not sexual, but they're intimate relationships. So when we changed his outlook, when he really started working on living in a space of gratitude and releasing all of this negativity on all the past, and started to live in the now and visioning for the future, all of a sudden those very same doors that were closed started opening. And it just is booming. He can't even keep up with what's happening right now.
How would Tantra change a person's personal life?
Well, how you do this is how you do everything. So, we basically taking Tantra and learning about Tantra of awareness is about learning how everything in the universe connects, that we are the pebble that drops into the pond, and we are the ripples that it creates. And once we start to understand the connection and the energy of everything around us, we can start to look at Tantra of Self, which is about how we are moving about in the world. What beliefs we have that are creating our circumstances. We assume accountability and responsibility for the things that are happening to us, learning to utilize our breath to move energy through our body, to live in expansion instead of contraction. When you start to understand those things and become accountable, you understand that you're not a victim anymore. You understand that you actually are in charge, and then you can move forward into a great life, whether that's business, relationships, sexuality. It's all the same thing.
Okay, so let's say there's these group of people who are just not able to cope with life. Things are going so wrong in their lives. They've tried everything, and like the gentleman who had his business, he was so hell-bent on doing it his way that he was missing the big picture, and by missing the big picture, he wasn't, he just wasn't getting the reaction that he wanted.
Right.
I can understand it working in the business. I can understand it working in an adult. But can children and students use Tantra to enrich their lives as well?
Definitely, and thank you for asking that question, because when I tell people my daughter is tantric, they look at me like I'm crazy and, they need to start calling somebody. Children are naturally tantric, especially as babies. They're absorbed in all their senses. They're very interested in everything that's happening.
Oh, gosh,
and they live in that state of arousal that's not genitally based. That's really about life. And so, yes, if we teach our children how to breathe correctly, which is conscious breathing, to allow movement in their body, and if we don't shut them down, but encourage their exploration of themselves and their universe, if they're feeling depressed, we can help them understand how to move that energy through their body, and be in that state of awareness with them. I think that children are a great reflection of what is all that's great in the world, and we as adults shut them down in too many ways. But yes, definitely, we can use any of the techniques in Tantra to help kids and teenagers and everybody just move forward with their life.
I'd like to give our listeners the perfect example, and this is how I understood what you just said about children. When you see a child who has seen something for the very first time. For example, I can recall our daughter Stephanie, the first time that she held a flower in her hand, God bless her. She looked at it with wonderment, with a smile on her face, that she was connecting with something else that was bringing her joy beyond belief.
Yeah, well, she was also completely engaged in the moment. You know how children are, it's hard to tear them away from something. I'm not talking about the TV, but a snail, a frog playing with rocks, whatever. They're in wonderment. They're in awe. They are actually in the highest level of, if you want to say graciousness to God or the universe, that's what that is. And when we as adults can learn to bring that same amazement and wonderment celebration to our partner, to our business, to everything we do, even the dishes.
To ourselves.
To ourselves is the first place. Then we can create an amazing experience in our lives and in the lives of anybody that's around us, because it spills over.
Do you know, I think you've just solved the mystery of why Christmas makes everybody happy.
Yeah. The focus and the wonderment and the awe, and everybody's in, and it also solves the mystery of why some people are so not Christmas oriented, because it's too much for them to absorb. We actually are living as adults in a limited capacity for pleasure, and I'm not just talking sexual pleasure. We've learned to shut down our experiences so that we have a low tolerance. Kids have an amazing tolerance for wonderment and energy and bringing in all of this exquisite joy in their mouth, in their ears, their sound, their taste, all of it.
That's right. They're always tasting. They're always touching. They're always listening. They're always, it seems that children are little sponges.
Exactly.
That they just want to experience everything. They want to learn so much. And I believe you're right when you say that as we grow older, we get lazy. And
we get apathetic, we get scared, we let our fear override us, we get our programmed beliefs start to take over, and our unconscious mind starts to run negative self-talk and programs that really don't help us to move forward in any type of expansive way. We start to contract, because in the universe there's two ways to live: contraction and expansion. Most things are contracting and expanding. We are in conflict because we strive to contract and stay in one place because we think that's safe.
Tanja Diamond is our special guest Exonation. Her website is www.learningtantra.com. And she is the author of, come on, plug your book here.
Beyond Sex Tantra, a practical guide for extraordinary living.
Now, what is the biggest poo-poo you get when you talk to people about Tantra? Do they understand it, or do they think it's just another philosophy from across the great waters that really has no relevance in their lives?
Well, I wish they at least understood it was a philosophy.
Okay.
Most of the time, unfortunately, especially in the U.S., people have really just taken Tantra down to a base of erotic massage or some type of Kama Sutra sex move or something like that. So when I talk about Tantra, first of all, people are like, some people will gasp that I would actually use the word out loud. And when, I explain to them that this is really about, a living an extraordinary life, they become more interested. But it's very difficult to get past what the media has shown most of Tantra to be, and that's all about sex.
What does that
let me tell you. Go ahead.
What does that tell you about our society and the society that we live in when they only want to hear what they want to hear, and that they're basically hooked on the sexual part of it?
Yeah, well, the reality is we, as a nation, are very sexually repressed. So anything that has a sexual charge to it we find it very titillating and yet at the same time scary. Because we are incredibly ignorant, and I use the word ignorant purposely, about sexuality and about relationships, because nobody's teaching relationship management. Nobody's teaching people how to really give each other what they need, both men and women equally ignorant in this state. So basically the whole sex thing is it's titillating and yet it's scary and yet it's got all of this stuff with it. So, yeah, that's what happens. We don't see beyond the orgasm, basically.
Do you think that this very attitude has something to do with the high divorce rate?
Well, not only does it have to do with the high divorce rate, but basically internet porn is the highest sex addiction in the world. So we are learning how to have less intimacy and trying to make orgasm the goal, which it isn't in sex, which always astounds people. And then the divorce rate is high because of the no relationship management, no understanding of what people actually need in sexuality, which is not just the basic sex that people are having. We need, even men will say this to me, we need a deeper connection. We need to have an experience that brings us closer together.
That's right.
And not just a physical experience.
So how do we go about changing the public's view of Tantra and getting it to where you would like it to be?
Well, we have people like you brave enough to bring me on a radio show and let people hear a different viewpoint. Of course, buying the book, Beyond Sex Tantra, is a great way to open your mind to the other aspects. And just getting out there. I'm going to be launching another book later this year, Modern Tantra, which is the actual that technology that I was talking about to help people start to change their lives in that direction. We just need to talk more. We need to communicate more and get educated.
What has been the highlight of your crusade with Tantra so far?
I love that. The Tantra crusade. The highlight is that yeah, exactly, that there are people out there that are actually willing, like I said, willing to host me at workshops, willing to talk to me at interviews, people wanting desperately, when I get a room full of people and I can see in their eyes as I'm giving them this information that they feel hopeful, that there's something more than just what they were having, that maybe there's an answer to all of this, and it's not that daunting, and it's not that scary, and it's not going to require, you go sit in a cave somewhere, but they can start where they are now. Tantra is a solo practice to start. I really wish people would know that. People call me and say, I don't have a partner. That's when they're only thinking sex. But even sexually, it's still a solo practice to start. This is about igniting your own internal flame so that you can start to experience everything is extraordinary.
You and I have to take our final break, Tanja. Please stand by. Exonation Tanja Diamond is our special guest this hour. And the name of her book is Beyond Sex, Tantra. Here's her website, www.learningtantra.com / and this will take you to the book site, / beyond-sex-tantra.html. That's www.learningtantra.com / beyond-sex-tantra.com. We'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as the X Zone continues right here on the Talkstar Radio Network and the X Zone Broadcast Network from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Still to come on tonight's show, we'll be speaking to Dr. Joanne Bishop, and we'll also be speaking to Matthew Stein about when technology fails. My name is Rob McConnell, and I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with our special guest Tanja Diamond as we continue from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
When it's right, why wait until the middle of a cold, dark night when everything's a little clearer in the light of day? And we know the night is always gonna be here anyway.
Thinking of you's working up my appetite. Looking forward to a little afternoon delight. Rubbing sticks and stones together make the sparks ignite.
And welcome back, everyone. Tanja Diamond's my special guest, www.learningtantra.com. And if you'd like to find out more about her book, Beyond Sex Tantra, visit www.learningtantra.com, beyond-sex-tantra.html. Tanja, what is some of the dark history or the dark side of Tantra?
Well, Tantra, definitely has is steeped in some mystical things. And there were two paths. Originally, Tantra was divided up into two schools or two paths, right-handed and left-handed. And one of those schools practiced abstinence and vegetarian, no meat, no alcohol, no drugs, that type of thing. And celibacy was their big path to enlightenment. The other path, obviously, was the other path. They used ritual objects of alcohol and different types of medicine and drugs, and some people would call black magic and sexual ritual to get to enlightenment. So some of these things have been scary, and some of these things will show up in searches. And I think a lot of the times, a lot of people have gotten the information, of course, because it's so ancient, skewed and wrong. The dark path or the other path was definitely still very systematic, very scientific, very laid out in ritual format. So it wasn't, even though the walls depict looking like orgies, people engaged, they were very ritualistic. They had to get to a certain place before they could perform those rites.
I've heard stories where people actually also use drumming and the beat of the drum as a way to get focused enough to actually get to the sexual height that they want to get to.
Well, definitely sound. All the senses are used. So there's smell and there's sound and energy. All of these things, all of the senses come into play in most of tantric rituals. And so drumming, chanting, any of these type of things that had a way to carry the energy. Energy follows sound. And even in the body, if you use sounding in the body, you create certain energy. And there's certain sounds that pertain to different chakras in the body. So then that creates movement of different types of energy.
You know what? This has been a very fast hour. I'd like to take this opportunity of thanking you very much for joining us and for enlightening us on the other side of Tantra, the Tantra side that we now have a better understanding because you've taken the time and the effort to research the subject so well. And I wish you much success with your book, Beyond Sex Tantra, and I also understand you've got another book coming up very shortly.
I do, and of course, workshops and products and everything else you can imagine you can find on my site.
And that's at www.learningtantra.com. My guest this hour has been Tanja Diamond, and I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news at 6.5 minutes past as we continue live from the studios of the REL-MAR McConnell Media Company in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and the X-Zone is heard around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network and on X-Zone Broadcast Network. We'll be back. Don't go away.